Alrighty everyone, we are just a couple of days out from the official debut of The Mandalorian Season 3 Episode 1 that is about to actually debut on March 1st. That's going to kickstart Jon and Dave's journey for their new, respectful way of handling the Star Wars franchise moving ahead, now that it's completely departed from Kathleen Kennedy and how she's only working on Acolyte and Skeleton Crew and a lot of things related to that. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, the thing about Bob Iger is that he is currently really trying his absolute best to turn Star Wars around, to regain the fans that he lost from the sequel trilogy and the Gina Carano situation, and ever since then, basically Bob Iger has been trying to do various things to really kind of just win back the fans, to gain more subscribers on Disney+, and sure, it may come out of a phase of desperation and damage control that is, probably what's rooted to everything, but at the same exact time, we have Jon and Dave who are very genuine people that actually are very passionate and care deeply about the fans, and I think it's why Mando 3, it's something that they are going to knock out of the park. The same exact thing goes as follows for the Ahsoka Tano show. Now, moving on to the next big thing, one of the biggest subjects that a lot of fans tend to bring up has a lot to do with Kathleen Kennedy departing from Lucasfilm. And Bob Iger recently was able to tease about that and to actually respond to that and talk a little bit about new leadership taking over the company and exactly the necessary steps to, making that happen. So let's dive right into exactly what Bob Iger had to say. Now, we know that Bob Iger recently, as of late, has been having problems with Kathleen Kennedy, and it's a non-stop issue. However, with Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, preparing to make big adjustments at Lucasfilm in order to make Star Wars thrive for the fandom. In a recent interview, Bob Iger went on to talk about future projects and what to expect from Lucasfilm and more. He went on to state the following to the entire community when questioned about replacing Kathleen Kennedy. I believe that in this industry, as tough as it gets, it's always healthy to look for new leadership to take control over a certain vision of our slate of projects to correct some of the wrongs that were made in the past. And I am happy to say that I and those at Disney have been talking about this every single day on how we can gain new leadership at Lucasfilm, and we feel that time is approaching and is much needed. Furthermore, it's something that we have discussed over with Kathleen Kennedy many times, and she's very well aware of our conversations on what kind of future we want for Lucasfilm, and for Star Wars specifically speaking. Now, let me just stop right here for a second. Of course, he's alluding to the plans to get Dana Brunetti as the new Lucasfilm president. We know that he is now the new top choice over at Lucasfilm. Alright, now, given that, yes, we also know that, initially it was supposed to be Ron Howard and David Heyman, but Brunetti is now at the top of the list. He is the top candidate to take over Kathleen Kennedy by this August. That's the plan right now. And Bob Iger is basically alluding to that and saying that without directly telling the fans, basically, is what's happening here. Now, we know that Bob Iger knows the fans that really want something very new. They really want something very fresh and very unique for the franchise that they have never seen before. And so, when you look at stuff like that, everything related to Bob Iger kind of admitting that they made a lot of mistakes, a lot of wrongs before in the past, it's living proof that Bob Iger genuinely really just wants to create his own legacy and to kind of correct some of the wrongs. And I've said this before, I still believe that he is doing this out of damage control and desperation, but he also wants to make sure that Star Wars is going to have some kind of realism to it. And what I mean by realism is not necessarily relating to, real world events, but relating to passionate creators being very real with the fans, being very direct with the fans, listening to them, taking their advice, stuff like that. So anyways, moving forward, on top of this is where things begin to get a little bit more interesting and engaging. He goes on to say, "It's something that we think needs to happen in order for us to explore new horizons for this franchise through a new vision and someone else's new strategy of achieving that. We also believe that it's a healthy thing to do for a franchise like this, and we can admit to making some mistakes and wrongs that we could and would like to correct through somebody's different vision over at Lucasfilm. And believe me, we talk about this every single day in our meetings, and it's something that always comes up to us and to our investors." Now he goes on to actually conclude, "It's going to be a very strategic plan of ours on how we can make this happen, but we are working on such things, and we hope fans stay connected in the meantime." So listen, before we get to the next thing that he actually goes on to say, is that this is really all about kind of addressing the issues that Kathleen Kennedy caused over at Lucasfilm, the damage that she left behind, and the proper steps that Disney needs to take in order to really correct many of the issues and the problems that were associated with her vision of Star Wars, right? I mean, when you look at Kathleen Kennedy, this is somebody that said that Legends does not exist, that there was no source material to pull from for the sequel trilogy films. I mean, she just flat out said that a couple years ago, that there was no source material to use from past events for the sequel movies. And she basically just, lied to fans, at least to the new fans that didn't really know much about Legends. So she wanted to hide that contrast between what is so very well written and what is so, very disjointed and just out of place. So Bob Iger, the other thing that I did want to touch on here is that currently there is a shakeup over at Disney between himself, the Disney higher-ups. A lot of the board members are really also calling for Kathleen Kennedy to stay, to kind of make her stay put and keep her as president. But that's only 30% of the board members. The rest are in favor of Bob Iger's view of getting rid of Kennedy by this August. They already presented a severance deal to Kathleen Kennedy that's worth $25 to $30 million. I mean, just let that sink in there. I mean, she's getting that much money to leave Lucasfilm, to get laid off. It's crazy and a bit unfair, in my opinion, for what she's done to Star Wars, but hey, you know what? I mean, at the end of the day, whatever it takes. But on top of this, we know that Bob Iger, really wants I should say, John and Dave to do their job and to really kind of just bring Star Wars back to the basics, to really bring Star Wars back to its, its fun surprises, its fun reveals and revelations, stuff like that. That's what he's embracing, and he wants a Lucasfilm president that's going to actually engage in that and to allow that to really kind of be a thing for many years to come. So, like I say, guys, this is a very important time right now. 2023 is the year for John and Dave to prove themselves with Mando 3 and Ahsoka. That's going to be the kickstart of the momentum. 2024 will also continue that. So overall, guys, fill me in below in the comments what you guys have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Night to moon, we hear them moans again.